Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall.
Celebrating Shelley Duvall, Hollywood's One That Got Away, written by Jack Collin. Shelley Duvall, a former American actress, quickly ran from the spotlight and now resides in a small town in Texas, where she enjoys keeping to herself and being a good neighbor. It's hard to believe that a person with this much stardom and fame would abandon it all in almost a blink of an eye. But that she did. On July 7th, she turned 72, meaning over 50 years ago she made her debut in Brewster McCloud in 1970.
He a genius. He was beautiful, too. He had hair out to here.
What might seem so long ago now, she truly blossomed since her first appearance and became a horror legend that will never be forgotten. Perfect accident. Growing up in Fort Worth, Texas, Duvall was the only girl with her 3 brothers. She was the daughter of a lawyer and real estate broker. Acting was not her first choice for a career, but she was scouted at an engagement party after she graduated from high school. She had former experience acting in plays at school, but nothing could prepare her for what was about to come.
But it was very satisfying and very rewarding.
One of the rare cases of young actors being picked up off the street for a fast career change from a nobody to a somebody. From there on, she acted in multiple films directed by Oscar-nominated Robert Altman, who found her performances fascinating to watch. Titles including McCabe and Miss Miller, Thieves Like Us, Nashville, and even landing a role in Woody Allen's classic Annie Hall with Diane Keaton. With an impressive filmography already from only working for 10 years, it wasn't until 1980 where she became the name everyone knew.
Like the way I intend to live around here, why don't you just move out?
The Shining. After starring in another Altman film, Three Women, along with Sissy Spacek, who just became a horror legend in Carrie, Duvall got a blind call from Stanley Kubrick himself. He viewed the film and liked the way she cried. She was offered the role of Wendy Torrance from the Stephen King novel, The Shining. Without a script written, Kubrick mailed Duvall a copy of the novel, telling her to read it.
I'm gonna try to get Sammy down to sidewalk.
A month later, she was boarding a flight to begin filming on one of the most famous productions for being the most grueling and long, 56 weeks to be exact.
If it hadn't been for that, volley of ideas and sometimes butting of heads together, it wouldn't have come out as good as it did.
It's safe to say that most people have seen The Shining, or at least know the horror premise of a bad case of cabin fever while staying in a haunted hotel completely isolated from society. Just this past 4th of July, the famous ending of the group photo for the July 4th ball celebrated its 100th anniversary, to which excited fans all around the world. Though Hollywood legend Jack Nicholson was the lead in the frightening flick, it was Duvall's frantic performance that caught audiences' eyes.
As soon as possible! As soon as possible! Jack!
On the verge of tears or full-on sobbing, Duvall carried the weight of the film, off-screen as well. Kubrick was known for being a stickler, but Shelley Duvall got the brunt of his brutality. In a Hollywood Reporter interview, Duvall spoke about the abuse accusations working with Kubrick. He's got that streak in him. He definitely has that. But I think mostly because people have been that way to him at some time in the past. He spent a lot of time with Jack and me. He just wanted to sit down and talk for hours while the crew waited. And the crew would say, "Stanley, we have about 60 people waiting." But it was very important work.
I'm very pleased to have done it because I've learned more on that picture and strengthened myself.
Though many others, including Nicholson, agreed that Kubrick was more than extremely tough on Duvall, the most prime example being the staircase scene having a total of 127 takes.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Over and over, swinging a bat and crying, going backwards up the steps. An excruciating process that very well ended up being the most exemplary horror film of all time that couldn't have been done without Shelley Duvall. Popeye. Later in the year, after the release of The Shining, Duvall's second huge hit was on screens in December. As Robin Williams' co-star in the movie musical Popeye, another Altman film, based on the comic strip by Max Fleischer, about a sailor with huge forearms and an appetite for spinach. Duvall played Williams' love interest in the film, Olive Oil.
And I just, at that moment, I said, this is who I'm using in the film, or I'm not doing the film.
Though the film has been critiqued for being an overall bizarre experience, the consensus is that Duvall was the perfect Olive.
The real star of the show, as far as I'm concerned, is Shelley Duvall, and she was born to play Olive Oyl.
With oversized brown boots on her feet, Duvall sings and sways across the screen. The film's plot is a roller coaster of a story, but the overall humor is irresistibly fun to watch. The famous American film critic Roger Ebert even got on the Duvall train, writing, "Shelley Duvall, the star of so many other Altman films, is perfect here as Olive Oyl, the role she was born to play. She brings to Olive a certain dignity, you might say." Though the complete opposite role of Wendy Torrance from The Shining, Duvall stole the screen again.
He needs me, he needs me.
In the blink of an eye. Shelley continued acting until 2002 with her last film, Manna from Heaven, with co-stars Shirley Jones and Cloris Leachman. She left the scene years earlier in the 1990s to move back to Texas with her husband, Dan Gilroy. There's no exact answer that she has given for the reasoning for moving out of California so quickly, but there are rumors that point toward the wariness of earthquakes.
Today is about screaming for help, you know, to get out all those internal tensions before it becomes mental stress.
Other than shooting a few small roles in films here and there, Duvall was extremely quiet in Texas. Without hearing much from Duvall since her last film, it wasn't until 2016 where a controversial Dr. Phil episode was promoted of an interview with Duvall. Just the promotions alone that aired were completely inappropriate, and viewers believed Duvall was made out to be completely insane.
Just a cheap thing to do to someone who clearly was in no fit state to agree to an interview.
Struggling with her own mental illness, Dr. Phil tried to help, but rather than helping her on a human level, he decided to invite an entire crew to exploit her. The show got so much backlash that Kubrick's daughter, Vivian Kubrick, came out to support Duvall and set up a GoFundMe page for Duvall's medical help. A few years later, she did a special feature with The Hollywood Reporter, and when asked about the interview, she was very regretful of that experience. At the end of the day, it is surely not her to blame for signing up for something when not in the best state of mind. The exploitative, incredulous show did more harm than good for Duvall, making her isolation from society more of a dream than the nightmare from the Overlook Hotel.
Can we just talk about something else now?
Take note. It's critical to understand that not only does the public not have a say on what celebrities do with their fame, but they also don't have a say when they choose to leave it all behind. Shelley Duvall was an actress that Hollywood put a lot of pressure on, and quite possibly could have been too much. Time and time again, society loves to comment on life experiences they have only seen from afar or heard of through a friend. It takes walking in one's shoes to understand the life that one has lived. No one has walked in those brown clunky shoes, and it shows.